talk about paints. This is my palette, and it has many more colors than I usually paint with, but occasionally I throw extra ones in there. So this one just happens to have lots of wells that I filled up, but it's still generally organized with blues, yellows, and reds, and some neutral browns over here. I use this container to store my tube paints. It's just something I got at the Container Store or hardware store. And I do like tube paints because I can squeeze them out and refresh, and then I have a bright, fresh color. As you'll remember from my earlier travel palette, this one comes with paints in pans. These are little half pans, and the paint's in there and it's dried up, and that's totally fine. I just find that one, it's hard for me to remember which color is which in this setup, and also it takes a while to reactivate the dried paint. Even when I'm painting in this palette, if I wanted to reactivate a color, I have to get it wet again, and then spend a few minutes just sort of getting the paint back. And it's still going to be a slightly duller version than if I were to squeeze it straight out of the tube. So I like to use tube paints for that reason. So now the colors. I use cobalt blue. That's a nice medium blue. I use that a lot. A darker blue, French ultramarine. I use that. You'll notice these are Winsor Newton Professionals. That's just the brands that I lean towards. There's a few other paint brands in here that I have. It doesn't really matter, whatever you're comfortable with. Different brands have slightly different hues of the same color, so you should test it out and see. I also use Antwerp blue, which is more of a greenish blue. Prussian blue works as well for that. I use Winsor yellow. Cadmium yellow is almost the same, I find. And I use raw sienna. That's over here for some reason, but raw sienna is more of a tan color. I use that quite a bit. As for my reds, I use, the one I use most often is Rose Madder. And if you don't have Rose Madder, a very similar one is Alizarin Crimson. That's here. I use them interchangeably. The Alizarin Crimson is a little more staining, so I like the Rose Madder. It mixes really nicely. And Brown Madder. Brown Madder is a reddish brown. So if you are used to using burnt sienna, which I have here as well, that's a wonderful, wonderful color. A lot of people have burnt sienna. Brown Madder is a redder version of that. So I tend to go for Brown Madder. And burnt umber. Burnt umber is really just a dark brown. That's wonderful for making really deep darks. Burnt umber mixed with French ultramarine makes a really, really nice dark. Okay, so these are the ones I mostly use. Oh, I forgot. Purple. Dioxazine purple. I use purple often when I'm painting tree branches and bark. I think there's a lot of purple there that I find. Some other colors I sometimes have, but probably won't use as much, is cerulean blue. That's a nice lighter blue, warm blue. I like turquoise, cobalt turquoise, that's this one here. That has a real nice pop. And if I do want that warm red that's up here, I'll use cadmium red. So in addition to these colors, I also have a tube of white gouache. And I sometimes at the end of a painting will add highlights or things that I was not able to lift out and I really need a pop, then I'll add a touch of gouache at the end. A little goes a long way with that.